go, fight, win. In every school, excluding elementary schools, there are sports and after-school activities. Now, the only controversy that is the most arguable is whether or not cheerleading should be labeled and defined as a sport. Today, I'm going to inform you on why and how competitive cheerleading will benefit from being labeled as a sport. I'll explain this by first explaining what a cheerleader is required to do when performing, second, what the dangers of competitive cheerleading are, and finally, explaining what the benefits are in labeling competitive cheerleading as a sport. First, let me explain what a cheerleader is required to do when performing. The definition of a sport, according to the Oxford Dictionary, last visited November 4th, 2014, is an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or other for entertainment. Cheerleading, especially competitive cheerleading, fits that definition. Competitive cheer includes a 2.5-minute routine involving jumps, dance, and stunts. All these aspects require skill and also competing against other teams for entertainment and a win. This is a picture of a jump sequence in the middle of performance. The jumps that are in cheerleading have to have good technique and require enough strength to get both legs up and keep the technique. The dancing is fast-paced and sharp dancing. It isn't hip-hop or a lyrical dance. It is a cheer dance. A cheerleader has to be tight and sharp and clean when dancing. Now, the stunting is probably the hardest part of the 2.5-minute routine. Stunting is where a group of 3 or 4 cheerleaders hold one cheerleader up in the air. Typically, there is one holding a foot, another holding the other foot, and the last girl is holding the ankles. And occasionally, there's a girl in the front for extra safety precautions. There are hundreds of different stunts, including balancing on 2 feet, known as a full or half, balancing on 1 foot, known as a lib, and twisting in the air, known as a twist down. All these elements are in a 2.5-minute routine, having at least 2 jump sequences involving 2 to 5 jumps each, over 10 different stunts, and a big dance sequence. Second, I will share with you the dangers of competitive cheerleading. The dangers of competitive cheerleading has to do with the safety equipment and stunts. When practicing, some high school cheer squads, who are also competitive cheer squads, don't have the necessary safety equipment or space. From my experience, my high school could only provide mats, and on that note, we the cheerleaders had to pay for them. Our mats were a good 2.5 inches thick, and that's the only thing that separated us from the floor. The designated practice area was a hallway, not the gym, because that is where the sport teams practice. The height of the ceiling was not tall enough for us to practice our stunts. When in stunts, the flyer that girls do in the air can touch the pipes that are hanging from the ceiling in the practice area. This is a picture of the ending pose of an elaborate stunt. Stunts are very dangerous, and if they are not properly executed, the result can be injuries or even death. According to health.us.com, last updated June 28, 2013, states that the overall injury rate of cheerleading is low compared to other girls' sports, such as soccer and basketball. But despite the lower overall injury rate, cheerleading accounts for a disproportionate number, 60 to 70% of all catastrophic injuries in girls' high school sports. This is an area of concern and needs attention for improving safety. Finally, I will explain the benefits that cheerleading will gain from being labeled as a sport. The benefits gained if competitive cheerleading is labeled as a sport are the respect given and injuries are lower. As a former cheerleader, I know firsthand how the student body and faculty of the school respects the cheerleaders. High school cheerleaders are not given the priority and respect as other high school sports because cheerleading is not labeled as a sport. Whether the cheerleading squad of the school was just a pep rally or both pep and competitive squad, the respect of a sport was not there when the squad puts in the work just like any other sport. Every cheer squad practices for hours after school, just like the football team or soccer team. But when it comes to support, not everyone is game to support the team. This is a competition bow, a bow that represents each cheerleader, a bow that sparks this collection of endless amounts of bows. According to an essay on rightwork.com, last updated October 28th, states that Their passion rests within competing against other cheerleading teams, performing their best skills and stunts in front of a panel of judges, and reaching goals that they set for themselves, such as obtaining a harder skill. Another benefit competitive cheerleading will gain if labeled as a sport is that injury rates will lower. When recognized as a sport, the right practice equipment will be provided, whether that is cheer coaches, instructional videos, or safety mats. Either of these options will help with lowering injuries. With cheer coaches, some schools cannot afford a professional cheerleading coach, and instead, volunteer teachers are the coaches. Some squads see a stunt that they would like to try and try to achieve it just by what they saw. Instructional videos will teach the skills step by step, and less mistakes and injuries will be made. The proper safety mats will provide better safety for those who do not have the proper mats. As mentioned before, some squads have no safety mats and others have very thin mats that do not provide the necessary safety to the skills that do not fully succeed. In conclusion, competitive cheerleading should be labeled as a sport because of, first, what a cheerleader is required to do in performing, second, the dangers of competitive cheerleading, and finally, the benefits that cheerleading will gain. A sport is defined according to the Oxford Dictionary as an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which individual or team competes against another or other for entertainment, and competitive cheerleading fits that definition.